Hello and welcome to my channel Making Crafts. Today I'm going to be using some products from Cat Scrappiness to create a Halloween banner. And this Halloween banner is a lot of fun to create as well as to hang up. It's very cute. So I'm going to be using the Creepy and Kooky Halloween paper from Cat Scrappiness. I'm also going to be using some of the Autumn glitter paper, and I'm going to be using the Never Ending oval dies and the Distressed Edge rectangle dies. So for the oval die that I'm using, the first one that I'm using, it measures, let's see here, it measures about 4 by 3, let me see, 2 3/4, somewhere around there. So it's about 4 by 2 3/4. But you can make yours any size that you want. There's different size ovals in this pack. This is just what I'm using if you want to follow along and create one just like mine. So then the Distressed Edge rectangle die, it measures about, it's about 2 3/4 inches tall by maybe 2 1/4 inches wide, maybe a little under that. It'll give you an idea so that if you have the dies, you can figure it out. I think this might be the next to smallest die. So the Autumn glitter paper is a 6 by 6 paper pack, and the glitter it's just very smooth paper. It's not a textured glitter paper. It's smooth just like all the other papers, but it has a glitter look to it. So I'm going to be using the orange and the yellow. And then from the Creepy and Kooky pack, if you're following along, you need to pick out 6 different backgrounds. So I've picked out the 6 backgrounds that I'm going to use. So, or I think I'm going to use. I'm going to see as I go along. So I'm going to use this one as well as the candy one with the purple background. I'm going to be using, what do you call this one? Like the stripes and I think it's argyle. I'm not really sure now. And then I'm going to be using the stars and the candy corn, which candy corn is like one of my favorite candies during Halloween. I know some people don't like it, but I love it. So my husband loves the little candy pumpkins. I prefer the candy corn. Let me know below, do you like candy corn or the candy pumpkins, or do you like both? Okay, so back to the project. I am going to first start out with my glitter paper, and I need to decide what color I want each shape. So all of my ovals are going to be orange glitter, and all of my rectangles are going to be the yellow glitter. I want to call it gold, but this isn't really gold. It's a yellow. It's a fall yellow. So I'm cutting 3 of the Distressed Edge rectangles out of the yellow, and then I'm cutting 3 of the ovals out. Now you'll need a sheet and a half, so a 1/6" sheet and a half of another one to get your 3 ovals out. So I've got my 3 orange glitter ovals now and my yellow glitter oval rectangles. And so now we need to go ahead and work on our background paper. So I'm just going to take a look at my background paper and decide which ones I want to go with which color glitter paper. So you want to keep in mind, most of these will go with either of the colors, but there are some like the candy cane paper. I really felt like it did not look as good with the orange, so I'm going to layer it onto the yellow, and then I'm going to pick 2 more of the background pieces to layer onto the yellow, and then 3 to layer onto the orange, so we kind of have an even amount there. And so I'm going to use the stars on the orange, I do believe. So I'll have to just keep in mind when I'm cutting my paper to cut ovals out of the stars and cut rectangles out of the candy cane side. So let's go ahead and start working on cutting out our shapes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a smaller oval die as well as a smaller distressed edge rectangle die. That is so hard for me to say. Okay, so the little oval die measures about 3 1/4 by about 2. So 3 1/4 by 2. And so then the small Distressed Edge rectangle die measures about 1 1/2 or so, maybe a little over. So they're going to fit onto our larger pieces. So I just wanted something a little smaller. So when I'm cutting out my pieces, since I am only going to cut out 1 of each background, I'm just going to move my little die around till I decide what I want on my little rectangle. So I'm thinking I do want some yellow, since this is going to have a little bit of the yellow background as well onto the yellow glitter. And I think this little piece right here will look perfect. So I'm just going to add tape to my die, and then I will run it through the machine. Now I do not show you when I run it through the machine. I pull it over to the side, and I've gone ahead and cut all of these out, But if you are curious about the Sizzix and you don't have one, I can show you sometime how I run these through the die, but it's very simple through the die cutting machine. So now we're going to take our ovals and we are just going to cut them down. So I want them to have a straight top and the oval bottom. So this is a little bit different from a banner. If you want a regular size banner, we have the banner dies in the shop. Now let me tell you, for this one, I'm cutting it about 2.5 inches tall before I keep going on with everything else. I'm cutting them 2.5 inches tall, and then the smaller circle, or the smaller oval, I'm cutting about 2.25 inches tall. So that way, you know, it kind of frames out the whole little shape there. So like I was saying, I'm decided to use these different shapes for my banners, but in the shop, Cat Scrappiness does have banner dies. So if you wanted a traditional banner, you could use those dies instead of these, and I can link to those below as well. I just thought it would be fun to mix it up and use some different shapes for the Halloween banner, because Halloween, you know, is, like it said, creepy and kooky, kind of a silly little thing. Now, I'm not really into the scary type Halloween, but I love the cutesy things and the all the little cutesy papers and cutesy stamps, and I love all the cutesy things that have to do with Halloween, especially the candy. The candy is probably my favorite part. So here are the stitched alphabet dies, and I love these dies. I ordered these the other week and I love them. And so I have cut my word spooky out of the spider paper. And so these dies are so easy to cut out, and I've already got so many ideas of how I want to use them, because right now I'm using them with Halloween paper, but coming up I'm going to be doing some Christmas things, and I'm hoping to use them on some Christmas paper, because these are small enough that you can fit several words onto, or not several words, but there's different words you could put on a card. You know, you couldn't have too long of a word, but you can put words onto cards with these, because these are small enough letters. So now what I'm doing is I am just backing these letters with some black paper, just solid black paper. So what I did is I cut the words out of the spiderweb paper, and then I cut the letters out of the spiderweb paper, and then I cut the letters out of the black paper, and I'm just setting it off just a little bit, offsetting it just a little so it looks like a shadow around my letters. Now I pulled out my tweezers from Cat Scrappiness because I forgot I had those, and I was struggling with putting these little letters, you know, gluing them together, and I keep forgetting that I have these tweezers, but I love these tweezers. They come in so handy, especially with the little die cuts and little pieces that you're trying to glue together. It really helps to hold everything steady and hold it so that you can, you know, get it together. So I have been thrilled to get these tweezers. I've been saying for a long time that I needed a pair of tweezers, and these are great. So these are like reversed, I think they call them reverse tweezers. I'll link to that below as well. So when you squeeze them onto the letter, so you can see here, when I squeeze it, it opens up, and then when you let go, it closes and it just clamps onto your little piece and holds onto it for you. So I like how those are, or how they work. So I'm finishing up here, just adding some shadow to my letters, and I thought it would help them to stand out on some of the background papers. Most of the letters stood out on the background papers, but on the star paper, it needed something to shadow it, so I decided to just do all of them. And I'm glad that I did. I love the dimension that it added to the letters just by adding this little shadow. It just helps them to, you know, pop up a little bit more. So now it's very simple. I'm just going to glue the distressed edge rectangles, the smaller ones, in the center of the larger rectangles, and then the smaller ovals in the center of the larger ovals. Well, now it's not an oval, it's a cut off oval, but you understand what I mean. So I'm just gluing these on, and I'm just gluing all this down flat. Now I will be coming back later with popping some things up, but for now all of this is just flat, and I love all these colors together. This glitter paper with this Halloween paper is so cute. So for my images that I'm going to be using on my banner, I have stamped, colored, and cut out the dress-up quokkas, as well as the Halloween costumes, the Halloween costume add-ons that you get to dress up your little quokkas with. And the little bone here is the only one that I have not stamped and cut out to go onto my banner. All the other images will be going on my banner, so I will be coming back and stamping that bone once I figure out if I need it anywhere on my banner. So to get started, I first want to just dress my little quokkas up. And so I'm just going to glue their little outfits onto them. Now for these quokkas, I did just, all the images, I used my chameleon colored pencils, as well as my Gamsol to color these in. I have showed this on my channel before, but I've learned even more because I'm not a colorist and I'm very new to it. I've only been coloring in my stamps probably a year or so, and you know, I was always scared of stamps that needed coloring in, so I started with the color pencils and the Gamsol to color, and it made it easier. And now I'm learning more techniques with the color pencils, so I'm coming back and just expanding on that, and I think getting better with it. I hope that it looks like it's getting better. It looks like it's getting better to me. I'm happier with the images, so I will have to show you how I do that. I did not add that into this video because I didn't want it to get too long, but I have a lot more stamps that I'm going to be coloring in for the holidays, so I will show you as I go along how I'm adding to my colored pencils now. So this little quokka can have some little teeth that you can add on, and there they are in the stamp set, but I decided not to add those little teeth. I guess it's like a little Dracula, but I decided not to add those, or a little vampire maybe I should say. I decided not to add those teeth. I'm just adding the little cape and vest. So once you have all these glued on, I'm just going to start adding my images to my banner pieces. And what I've decided to do is, since the ovals seem a little bit larger, a little bit more room, I'm going to add my little quokkas to the ovals. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to add all of my bats to the distressed edge rectangles. And I'm kind of going to do, it's not a pattern, but kind of a pattern, I guess you should say, so that I make sure that no two pieces that hang side by side have the exact same images on them, if that makes sense. So I'm putting my bats on the rectangles and my quokkas on the ovals. And then I'm going to come through with my letters, and I'm not really sure at this point if I'm going to add my letters to the center of the banner or if I will offset them so that, you know, around the actual images that I put on the banner. Now, I don't know if I mentioned when I was talking about gluing these, the solid black onto the back of my letters. When you do that, try to offset it the same direction for each letter so that they all match up. So as you can see on mine, all of the shadow goes towards the left. So it's all, the black is more towards the left. And so if you do that, that way all of your letters look like they have the same shadow on them. And hopefully that does make sense. You do have to pay attention when you're gluing the backs on, because I struggled with that. I kept each letter wanting to do it differently, and I realized, you know, they're going to look a little off if they're all not with the same shadow. So once I have my letters in, I'm just going to come back and I'm going to add in my spider webs, which I only stamped and cut out one spider web, so I'm going to have to go back and stamp and cut out more spider webs. I'm also going to come in with the little skulls that was in the stamp set, and I'm going to add them to my little rectangles. And then I'm going to bring the candles in and add those to my ovals. And you can see it's kind of a pattern. I'm not putting them in the same spot. Now, one thing I'm trying to do is to make sure that if one banner has a candle, the candle is not exactly on the same spot on the next banner. So like the P banner has the candle up on the upper right, where the O banner has the candle on the lower left. And I do that with all of the images. I'm trying to scatter them back. You can see I did that with the bats, and with each one I'm trying to do that so that there's not a lot of, even though there is a pattern to it, it doesn't all have the same, what am I trying to say, the decorations don't look the same because you don't have them all in the same location. So now I'm just going to go through, and you can see how really crisp and clear these stamps stamp. They're very easy to stamp, these small ones are. So I'm just going to stamp me a few spider webs and a few bones, and that way I will come back and do one more bone later. But then you also have the dies. I don't know if I mentioned this, but there are dies for the outfits. There are dies for all of the stamps. Even for the little quokka guys, there are dies for those. So you can get add-on dies for all of these as well. So I will list all the products below. I'll probably just link to the shop, and then I'll list all of the products below that I'm using and that I'm talking about, so that you can check those out as well if you're curious about those. Now, I do use my affiliate link in the description, so if you use my affiliate link, it does help out my channel some, but it does not cost you any extra. It just, you know, it will help me out. So I really appreciate when you use my affiliate link. So now I'm just coming back with some foam tape. I'm going to have to tell you, for me, this was the hardest part of this project. And it's probably the hardest for me because it wasn't the most fun for me, because I didn't have any little foam dots or any small foam. So I'm having to cut all of my foam down to fit my images. And the reason I say this is the hardest part, because it took me the longest, was just adding the foam around my letters and around the little images on the backs of them so that I could pop everything up. But I wanted everything to be popped up. So it did take me a bit, so I fast forward through that. You don't have to watch all of that, and you're not going to have to watch me put everything on this banner. So because once we have it laid out, all I did was just go through, pull the tape off of the images and add them to the banner. Now here I got a little mixed up. My candle got moved somehow, but I figured out where it finally went. So now I'm going to be using the Halloween House Party Sprinkle Mix. And what I'm going to be using out of this sprinkle mix is just the little black sequins. And I'm just coming through and adding those to the rectangle, distressed edge rectangle shapes. I only added it to the S, the O, and the K, as you can see, just the rectangle shapes, just to add a little bit more to my banner. And I love this little tray from Cat Scrappiness as well. It makes it easy to just put all of your sequins or all of your little mixes back into their bags. Now you'll see on this one, the little cat's head was so big it didn't fit through it. So I will go ahead and take that out of the tray and just put that down in the bag because it was a little big. Some of the sequins and pieces are too big, but that's fine because those are easy to pick up, the larger ones are. So I'm just gonna put all that away, and now I'm just going to add some washi tape, just some little washi tape to my string that I'm going to string my banner with. And this is just some yellow twine. And I'm just going to string it so that the string is on the back side of my banner pieces. Now you could have your string coming across the front if you want to add a little bit more to it and show your, your string on the front, but I decided I wanted mine on the back. And so I'm just going to string these, each one, so that the string goes across the back of my banner. And by adding the washi tape to the end of the string, it really helps to get the string into the holes. It just gives it a little bit more stiffness. Now I just punched these holes. I forgot to show you, but I punched these holes using my Crop-A-Dile, and so I just used the smallest hole setting on that one. And here is the completed banner. I really love how it turned out. I am so excited to hang this up. I haven't decided if I'm going to be hanging it in my craft room or if I'm going to be hanging it in my dining room, but I think it turned out really cute. Well, I hope that you've enjoyed this video, and thank you so much for watching. Bye.